I am here. Hello, everyone. Welcome to fmtraining.tv, where every day we're doing great FileMaker training. In fact, today is open Q&A day. Jacob Taylor's on vacation. Calvin Mosiman is here with us today. So the good news is that he can help answer questions and deliver on that. So if you want to know more about the channel here, if you go to fmtraining.tv, go to the top of the screen. You see all the things that we're providing here. We got FileMaker courses, we got bundles, we got subscriber access. All the training bundles now we're delivering through this online subscriber access right here. So you buy one of these bundles, you get access to the subscriber area in there, right? And then, and we do have some things today to talk about if no one has any questions. So
speak of the devil. What the spicy sentence enhancer would cause this error? The file name could not be opened. Extended privilege disabled.
All right, so the way privileges work in the FileMaker platform is that username and password is going to get you in, and it'll tell the user what records and layouts and things like that they can run. There is a subset or a superset, whatever you want to call it, of privileges that deal with sharing. And whenever you have to do anything with sharing, like you're going to share with another user, you're going to share with a user on the web, you're going to do sharing with some other stuff. Those are all what they call extended privileges. So whether I share on the web, PHP, DAPI, WebDirect, other Go or Pro users, those are all extended privileges. So that probably means your extended privilege is incorrect, okay? And that's a great area for test questions, at least on the old certification test. They would throw out things like, they would throw things out that made more sense than what really works in real life. So Calvin, do you want to show your screen and talk about the extended privileges?
All right, we're looking at Nick Hunter's design here. And so we're looking at file. This is an unlocked FileMaker app. And if we go to File, Manage, Security, you get the privilege sets. And let's go ahead and just create a new privilege set here. And I'm going to call this one test. And we're going to say full, actually, we don't want this one full access. We're going to say data entry only. And we're going to say no password. And so here we have this spot, and let's go ahead and look at our extended privileges. So here we have data entry only, which means they're allowed to see all the data, edit all the data, create, delete records, see all the layouts, but they're view only. They can't go into layout mode and change the layouts. Same with the value lists and the scripts. They can look at the value list, they can look at the scripts, they can run them, but they can't.
And I'm going to interrupt right here. I'm going to interrupt before you get to the blue box. Blue box is where we're going, but let me answer a question. Some of you are wondering why this stuff is grayed out, because it should be editable, okay? Can you move this window to the right a little bit, Calvin, just so we can, to the right? So understand that when you get a brand new FileMaker file, it comes with a couple canned privilege sets that are pre-built. Full access is one, data entry only is another one, and I think read only is the third one, if I had to guess, right? That sound about right? And so because they're pre-canned, Claris doesn't want you messing with them. Now, if you want to change them, you're like, well, it was really great, I'd like to change this, then you have to basically take their privilege set and essentially duplicate the privilege sets, give it a different name that you would understand, like data entry only for finance or something like that for finance. And then what you do, then these areas that were grayed out before are now available to you. So you can't change the default one. You can use the default. You don't have to use the default. You can use it. You don't have to. But if you want to change it, then you definitely have to duplicate it and then mess with the changed one. Does that make sense? So that's, yeah. So this area to the top and the right is all stuff because it's a privilege set that we can mess with. Then, yeah. So then if Calvin goes down below to where he was, we get to extended privileges.
Yeah. So I set this up. I gave myself, let's go. Okay. I gave this new test one, data entry only. Let's go try it out. And actually, I need to find out where this actually is. Okay. Here it is. And so I'm going to close this, hold down my option key. So it will ask me how do I want to log in. I'll say test, sign in. Oh, it wasn't supposed to do that. So let's make sure that we are logged in with the right. And so this logging this all down. So we know that we're logged in with the right user account. And so let's go ahead and log back in
As an admin.
as an admin.
Yeah.
And see with the privilege sets.
So you were in data entry only.
Mhm.
That looked normal. So you go file,
Yeah.
manage.
Well, I was hoping to
security.
get the error.
Well, that's because you had the one thing. Scroll.
So
That's interesting.
yeah, so I have FM app unchecked. So
Uncheck. Yeah, but is that not because it's local? Is that on a shared thing, or is that? Does that? Okay. Well, okay. Let me back up. Most of us run files on a FileMaker server. Let me just say that up front. I guarantee if that's not turned on, you can't access it on the FileMaker server. If the FileMaker file is local, I don't know, because you're not really sharing it. You're the owner and keeper of it, right?
Okay. Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. That's interesting. That's interesting. You just got snagged, and I'm like, yeah, right. So, why don't you upload it to a server? We have a servers you can upload to. You have one that's shared? Because that's the best way of demoing. It's all about sharing. Those privilege sets.
I don't know how big this is. Yeah, this is 160 megabytes. Is there a copy?
That's not too horrible. You can go, open on 13 or whatever. We have different FileMaker servers for different projects. Wow. All right, so scroll down to, go down to 23, go back up, 23 light. All right, so you logged in not as full access. You're logged in. Oh, we got to set it up.
We have to set it up. So I'm logging in as full access. It's thinking about it. Okay. I'll go to manage security. Since I have full access, this goes right in.
Yeah, same thing, same exact deal.
We'll say test.
Okay, no, you don't have that password. Do a data entry, right? If you want.
Yep. Let's do advanced settings, data entry only, and we'll look at this and we'll notice that FM app is checked. I'm going to uncheck that.
Yeah.
And
this is the bug that who asked the bug?
This is WJ Warner.
Hey, WJ, how's it going? He's on YouTube, right?
Yes.
He's a YouTube person. One of our awesome people that watches our show. Yeah, these are great questions, right? Because listen, only reason I really know this is because I did training on it and I kept beating myself in the head, right? Because you learn it and then you forget about it. If you don't roll out new solutions, you forget about it, right? So.
Yeah. And then this is 19.6. So
that's
I'm just
good enough.
That's
good
20.
enough. So you're going to use 20 to open it. So you're going to use two different clients on your computer to open it at the same time, right?
Yep.
And then, so one client's going to be admin, WJ, and then the other client will be this read-only. Yep. Well, data entry only, right? Is it data entry? It's a data entry only.
Yep. So 13.
There it goes. And you got light, 23 light.
Now I'm going to hold down my option key just to make sure it doesn't remember anything. Do my test.
No password.
Sign in, and your privileges do not allow you to perform this action. Well, that's
so those little check boxes there are all about on the extended privileges are all about sharing. I never really, it took me 20 years for someone to really articulate it that way, but I've seen it in places, but it doesn't really say that here. But somewhere buried in the docs or some live stream that Jay did or Clay Mackle or someone did, the extended privileges have to do with sharing. So the top one, let's just go through these real quick. Extended privileges, sharing. So this is if you have it on FileMaker server and you have the ODBC driver set up on FileMaker server, other ODBC or JDBC clients can access the data on the FileMaker server through that mechanism. So you're enabling the mechanism from the FileMaker server out, okay, generally. FM app is Pro and Go. Test question on certification. If you ever take the real test question or you take the new one, they like to say, if you want to enable, you get an error. So they set up WJ's question. You get a dialogue that says that this person can't access this. Which extended privilege set should you turn on? And they'll say, and they said, and the user was trying to use an iPad or an iPhone, right? And you go, okay. And they say, turn on FM, and all the extended privileges are like FM this. You see the extension on the right? You can actually test for that. That's like a reserved string. So you see FM iOS. Oh, that's one. FM mobile. That could be another one. How about FM iPad or iPhone? All those make way more sense than the actual answer. FM app is both Pro and Go, right? Which is dumb. I'm sure it was a very important thing that we did back in 2010 when this all came out, but obviously it grew organically. It was not. If it was me, it would be FM iOS. I think that question on the test is a much better real answer, but it's not the actual answer. So you cannot filter iPhone or iPad people from Pro people on Mac or Windows with this capability. You can't filter them out. Now, WebDirect, shockingly enough, is down here, right? It used to be FM. It used to be FM IWP for instant web publishing, the predecessor to WebDirect. If you think WebDirect's a pain in the ass, you ain't seen nothing. Try IWP. So then you got XML from the server, PHP from the server. Those are both kind of legacy. FM reauthenticate is it says, yeah, see the note down there, Pro Go only. That's if you walk away and it sleeps, and how long does it auto reconnect, right? So
and the end of this is telling us how many minutes. So it's 600 minutes. And then we have a few different options here. We've got 10 minutes and then what is that?
Okay,
60,
so here's
is that like a year?
That's one I put in. You can build your own extended privilege in here. We built that ourselves, I think. So and all you have to do is put that keyword FM reauthenticate, then you can have up to 22,000, whatever, it's a week or 2 weeks or something like that is the maximum. There's no indefinite. Now, here's a test question, right? So look on here. So by default, when you get this, none of these items are checked. Like by default, normally on extended privilege, if you have a local file, those won't be checked at all, right? So like that. So then the FileMaker certification test says, if no extended privileges are checked, what is the default time that you can sleep your application without having to reauthenticate? And you're like, Calvin, you remember what this is, right?
I don't remember.
Oh my God.
I'm gonna say 10 minutes.
Okay, no, it's so if you put FM reauthenticate 0, then that means there's no grace period. If you don't put anything down, the default internally, it's buried in the README and the help in the README in FileMaker, 1 minute.
1 minute.
1 minute.
Okay.
So if you're a medical operation and the doctor closes the laptop and walks out of the room and someone runs over and stamps that laptop open in less than a minute, they get in without a credential or password. After a minute, it's going to reauthenticate them. So if you run a very high, like you've got, say like your WJ Warner and you got stealth bomber secrets, his should actually say FM reauthenticate 0. That way, when he closes a laptop, a Chinese spy can't run right behind him, hit him with a baseball bat, open the laptop and take it, because they open the laptop, be immediately locked right out. Boom.
Real quick.
I could talk all day on this. More questions.
I know. No. There's a lot. We've got. Andy,
Good.
I see like your 3 questions. I will get to them after we finish up with the follow-up from WJ. First of all, the file is on Windows Server 2016 on an earlier version. No, a file from Windows Server 2016, FM Server 19.x. Hosted file didn't have any issues until suddenly dropping this error.
If they're, did he say they're on FileMaker Server 16?
No. They're on Windows Server 16 something. But what? Okay, WJ, I need to know. Remember, Margaret, there's a 90-second delay with WJ.
Yes.
WJ, I'm going to ask this question. I'm going to try to stall for 90 seconds here for you. The question is, I need to know what version of 19 that is. Okay, because my guess is that you're on 19.3 or 19.2 or 19.1 or 19.0, and your client is FileMaker 20, aka FileMaker 23, because you can't cross-pollinate. That'll generate an error. I haven't seen that error message. That is the error message.
Here's some follow-up from funny. He hasn't given a version answer yet. I was trying to log into server share to FM file local admin, but it would not allow me to log on through the share at all. Others were actively logged in. I stopped the file sharing, moved the file desktop on server, ran it from there locally, and got in with the same account. I checked security, all looked good, back to server share. No account could log onto the shared file. So it sounds like he dropped the file locally and people could log on to it, but once it was back on to sharing.
Okay, so we're talking about FileMaker doing the sharing. I get nervous when people say file sharing. I just
he
want to
had
make
server, so I assume it's on through server. Yeah.
Well, okay, sharing a FileMaker file right now, there's only two ways of doing it. I just want to either use FileMaker server and it shares a file, or you're on Pro and you can share up to 5 users, but you don't put the file like on Dropbox or on a file server and you have 5 people trying to open at the same time, right? I want to make sure we're not talking about that. That's very bad. You will die.
That will corrupt your
horrible death.
file, guaranteed.
You're going to corrupt your file and you're going to wake up in hell one morning and you'll wonder how you got there. And you'll just remember that Richard warned you that that was the path to hell. So read the question again, assuming that that's not the problem, Margaret. Read it one more time. Is this Andy? We got to get to Andy's too. So
this is just WJ adding extra information. Andy's is later.
Okay, hit it one more time.
I was trying to log into server to share the FM file local via admin, but it would not allow me to log on through the share at all. With others were actively logged in. He stopped the file sharing, moved the file desktop on the server, ran it from there locally, and got with the same account. He checked security, all looked good, back to server share. No account could log into the shared file, and his server version is 19.6.3.
All right, well, if you're 19.6, then you should be able to use FileMaker 23 all the way back to at least FileMaker 18. We used to do that. So
yeah, so it sounds like sharing with FileMaker Pro is working, which is what we just showed, that it ignores the extended privilege set. But sharing on the server is not working. We need to go into the extended privilege set and
turn that on.
Enable FM app.
FM app. That's my point. That's the thing with that. Yeah, that's got to be on. It's never going to work on a server. You could actually have a file that runs locally that you can access locally, but if that's not checked on, you move it to the server, no one can get to it. Or better yet, only you check off only WebDirect. So only WebDirect users can get into it, but they can't do development. So they can't actually fix the problem. So the only way to fix it's like painting yourself into a corner. The only way to fix it is to shut it down off the server, move it down, open it locally where it won't use that FM app extended privilege, get in there, fix it, close it, post it back to the server, and then try again. So that's the issue.
And you can have different extended privilege sets for different user privilege sets. So one group can have, if you only want them to access through WebDirect, you can enable the extended privilege set for WebDirect and not FM app if you don't want them to have the.
We did not explain that. Yeah. So the extended privileges are privilege set specific. Trust me. So yeah. So yeah. So just because pick like so yeah, let's look at extended privileges on that. We just hit advanced down there. Oh, that's fine. Okay, so notice that it's on right here, but WebDirect is not on. Now let's close this and look at the admin. Go to admin. Click that one. Yep. And so notice that WebDirect is on for this one. So if you have an admin credential, you can actually use WebDirect. If you have the test account, you can't get in with WebDirect. It could be backwards. You could actually tell the admin they can't get it. Now, keep in mind, they can close the file and fix it. So you're not really buying yourself any security, but understand that these checkboxes are privilege set specific. So that's the deal. Pretty cool. All right, Andy time. What do we got for Andy?
We've got a couple. So about permissions, is there a way in FileMaker to somehow have permission-based access control or apply multiple rules to the same user? So you can have someone who is working, for an example, in administration and warehouse in 2 roles. So like if you were an admin and also
you want them to have 2 privilege sets? Okay. Yeah. No, it uses, the way it works is that if you're, for whatever reason, and I can't remember the scenario for this, but when it, okay, so Calvin, okay, well, that says priority right there. So what happens is that depending on whether you have internal authentication, external authentication, or whatever else, it's going to authenticate from the top to bottom in the first account or first attempt. So whenever you try to log in, it starts at the top of this list and works its way down. Does that make sense? So that's also been known to be a snag for people. I'll just point that out, that if they go down like you have 10 items and you qualify under number 2 for some reason, that will be the privilege set you'll use, right? So even if you're qualified down below at number 8 for whatever reason, but you're at number 2 and you get in, then that's the privilege that you're going to use. You cannot combine two privilege sets together. You'd have to create, say like you had a sales function, then like in our company, we have a salesperson, we have engineers, you have finance. Say I wanted to combine sales and finance, which would be insanely dumb, but say I did that, right? You would actually have to create a third privilege set. You'd have a sales privilege set, a finance privilege set, and you'll have to have a sales and finance third privilege set that they would qualify for. And so you'd have to build that. You can't, there's no auto combine on that. Good question.
Follow up. And I guess you can't set specific permissions for specific users. You can.
Well,
right?
yes, you could. You could have a privilege set that only applies to one person.
Yeah, we have those.
And so in that case, it would apply to only one
There's
person.
two. Okay, so back up. There's two ways of doing this, right? So we have a video in our paid video training. It's called record level security and layout level security. They're two security. It's in the security section of our paid FileMaker training. We probably talk about this loosely in our 30-day thing, but the short version is that everyone should have their own account, but their roles should be like sales role, engineering role, executive role, pilot role, Margaret's the video marketing department role, whatever. And then you could have 5 or 10 people or 100 people in each of those groups. You could create a specific privilege set, or you could do some things with scripting. Now, keep in mind, scripting is not the end all be all, but you can actually customize. There's additional custom. Calvin, go to the test account. Go back and put I don't know if we lost a test or where it went. And then, but create a duplicate privilege set so we can monkey with it.
Here's your duplicate.
Data entry only. Yeah, use that one. So then what you can do is you can go in here to like record level security. That one's kind of, you got to be careful with performance on that. But you can do custom privileges, and you can come down here and say, well, if I'm on a record and I'm over here, and then you could say, view edit, yes, or you can click on click on one of those. Yeah, you got yes and no and limited. Limited means by calculation. Okay. And so it pops up a calculation dialog that if it's Boolean, if it's 1 or 0, the person can have access or they can't have access to it. Okay. So that's kind of a neat one right here. In fact, it said that at the bottom. If you go back to pop that one more time at the bottom, you see what it says at the bottom. It says, okay, it's like deleting records. So non-zero values are true, access allowed, which means in this case, the person would be allowed to delete the record. So you could have certain records, like where you tell everyone, generally, you can only delete the records if you're the creator. Say the file, like you are created by username, right? It's not the most secure way, but right, you can say get account. And if that matches the creator of the creator account name, there you go, that one.
This one.
Then it would allow you to delete. So you create it and you could delete it. I'm not saying that's a good idea or even makes great sense, but it would make sense. At least you can't delete Fred's, I'm here, but I can't delete Calvin's stuff. Like Calvin's time entries. Calvin's making too much money. We're going to give the boss a little bit of a break at the end of the month, so I have to pay him so much. Calvin's expensive. So I go in there and I delete a couple time entries. Tick, 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 tick. I can't do that with the security turned on where only Calvin can delete his time entries, for example.
So Andy said, this is before you guys explained. I'm going to say what he said. This is before you guys just had your explanation. I meant someone having the normal warehouse worker privilege set, but one of the workers needs access to sales and it would need an extra privilege set. Okay, using calculations would also be a decent way to implement multi-tenancy. If
you had a warehouse and their jobs were very different, you could actually have 2 computers in the warehouse. They log in one on one and one on the other. But if they're having to cross-pollinate their data and process on one FileMaker script set, then that'd be bad. But I could see there's bosses in there who managed a helicopter company and their access privilege set's different. But sometimes the bosses come out here and turn wrenches. So I give them a superset. But yeah, you could have a warehouse person. Yeah, it depends. If the process really has to talk to itself and integrate seamlessly, then yeah, you're gonna have to get creative with the calculations in there. So, but if they're really separate, the easiest thing to do. Listen, people say, "I'm not gonna buy a new computer." It's like people say, "I'm not gonna pay 360works for sync software. I'll write my own." Right? A $500 PC is a hell of a lot cheaper than us spending 3 or 4 days trying to code some process. If you can separate it, doesn't cause any problems, I'm not saying don't give the money to your developer. If you're Calvin's customers, definitely don't buy anything that'll save time and money. Spend the absolute maximum amount with Calvin. It's awesome. All right, next question, Margaret.
Okay, another thing I think FileMaker doesn't really do good, or I just didn't find it, is not having a way to implement components. Let's say I have 100 layouts with each sidebar, navbar, etc. Now I add another navbar element. Do I really have to copy paste that to 99 layouts?
So the rub is that the answer is true, right, Calvin? He's right. This person's correct.
It is. So, but there is some ways we can get around that, like specifically for a navigation. We've got now the card style navigation that Nick Hunter developed, and we have an add-on with, which makes it very simple to add a new navigation object.
That's actually your wheelhouse. Don't you have samples on that? You could do a whole live stream just on that.
So this is an add-on that allows you to change the navigation really quickly without having to go to every layout. And so here is a navigation based on FM starting point. And then say we want to add a new module or remove a module, we go to this edit button or this manage button. And we can, if we want to remove a section, we can actually remove it without deleting any records. We just make it inactive. And say we want to add a new one right after assets. I'll just press this plus button. It'll add a new one right under assets.
Yeah, but how hard is this to thread into 100 new layouts? That was his question, right?
Yeah, well, so this is just one layout. And so what we end up doing is just changing the navigation script here. And instead of saying go to home, we say go perform the navigation, open navigation card window script. And then it's changed across the board everywhere. And so it's a matter of implementing this once. And then every time you make an edit, you're just adding or removing. And then wherever you have reference that navigation card, then that it's updated. So I use this in most of my clients' apps. Whenever they say they want to change something with the navigation, I switch to this just because it's so much faster.
Yeah, so I think this is a great tool. I think it's really interesting. I think Claris has, to answer Andy's questions, there are some hacks and works around and some talented people. The Todd guys, the Johnson, the Lars Frankly, the Calvins, some other people like that have built things like this to try to help us out. Claris has, as the framework, the ability to completely blow this platform open and really get everyone excited about it. But basically they have to make it so you can take a file. We talk about the Star Trek transporter, but the idea that you take a file, FMP12 file, and you render it out completely as text. And that's like a base 64 idea. You take a picture, you turn base 64 out, it becomes the block of text. You can take that text, open it into a text editor. You can make changes, right? And then press the button and bring it back into FileMaker, slurp it back in. So if you found it, because when you look at the code in FileMaker, it looks like XML, you can kind of understand like, oh, there's a section here and this section here. You copy a section and say, put it into all layouts. You know, with basic utility, distribute all layouts, bam, 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 bam. Just it's text edits to a text file, reintegrate back into FileMaker, done, okay? So we don't have it, and we're desperate for Calvin and people really brilliant to figure out hacks to make it kind of work.
Two things. Is this a portal? It's not a portal, right? It's a
That's a card.
Yeah.
Yeah, this
actually
is
a slide control. It's a slide control, right? Or is it a card?
No, this is actually a card.
Okay.
So, but there's a few different. You can change which. There's a few different styles you can use, and so that one they're all displayed as cards, but.
So if it's a card, it doesn't slide on, right? It doesn't slide on, just like displays.
No, it doesn't slide. It just displays.
Yeah, so that's fine, but it's easy. It's easy to implement because it goes everywhere, right?
Right, right. But yeah, that's the magic of it. If it were a card, you'd have to put it on every layout. So this one's actually a portal, and this is to match the old FM starting point look. This one is a portal with an accordion, so you can open and shut different sections.
Yeah, that's sexy.
And then this one's the list. That's the one that it defaults to. And then we've got this new one that Nick designed called that's 2-tier. And then those are all the options.
Oh, I'm sure Nick's got a 12-tier one, you know.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
So we got a question from Scott Kane. I think it's a totally
Okay.
different thing. I have a plain number field that I tried to convert to an auto calc, evaluate self, so I can perform simple math in it, like 20 plus 30. It doesn't work. I have dozens of others in my solution, but it doesn't work on this field. I have too much data and related calculations in it just to create a new field. Any tricks I might try to get it to work?
So he's
I
using
think
the
that
auto.
would need to be. Oh, go ahead.
That's that auto enter trick that Nick does. And I off top of my head, I spaced on the bait. Well, I guarantee some of you know this. Ruben probably knows the answers. Who knows the answer to this one, right? They're using auto enter calcs to auto fire. So they're stored, but they're also not refreshed unless the data changes or something, right?
Yeah. He said evaluate and then self.
Yeah.
I think it would need to be a text field. Let's try it first as text, because you have a plus in there. Let's just try it. So here, 2 plus 2 is 4. Now let's try it with a number. So I'm just going to say duplicate. That'll make it a number field. Call this one test number. Change. Okay. And then we'll put a number field on the number.
Well, okay, so maybe I don't understand the question. He's evaluating the formula in here. Is Scott Kane asking about evaluating a formula in as a field, or is he talking about just the idea of using auto enter as a way to not have to deal with calculation fields?
Whatever Calvin is doing is what he's trying to do.
Oh, okay. Sorry, my bad. Okay. Yeah, it's I wasn't sure if the question was about getting auto enters a trigger or the calcs to.
Yeah, maybe you need to have the do not replace existing value unchecked.
Well, yeah. Okay, so understand that
allows it to
once it's in there, then that keeps it from firing again to overwrite it. So you need to uncheck that for sure.
It is unchecked.
Oh.
And it's not refreshing?
That's actually really cool. I never thought of doing something like that. That's really cool.
Well, it abstracts it away from the calc engine for the most part, right? So that's always a good performance thing. It's always a good deal.
It quits when I enter the plus sign.
It quits. You can't type anymore. You have any script triggers on this at all? Right? Because that's how no script triggers. This is script trigger list. So if you have script triggers in there, it's gonna bonk your thing. On object enter, on object keystroke. They're busy typing.
No triggers, nothing. It's not a global.
I can send you my test file.
Yeah, why don't we send the test file? Just put it out there. He can have it for what it's worth. But yeah, I would look at, if your FileMaker's pissed off, I would quit FileMaker. In fact, one time Nick had this problem and I went in circles. I said, Nick, when was the last time you restarted your computer? He goes, I forgot you could do that, right? Because he's running a Mac and it was so reliable. He just forgot that was even a thing. And I get this text message about 90 seconds later. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, boss. I forgot that restarting was a thing. It solved the problem. So yeah, you can get FileMaker to get hung. But I would look at, make sure no conditional formatting, no script triggers. It's just butt naked number field with no additional widgets on it.
We got 2 suggestions. I'm letting Scott's typing, but we got 2 live stream suggestions from Media Sandbox. Someday.
He's good. He's got great suggestions.
Maybe someday talk about the restore script step option, and then maybe someday talk about locking records such as quotes, invoices, etc. So if you need,
that's a good topic. I've covered that in our video training, but I would go back and see. That's where you use those.
Scott has fixed the problem. It had a script trigger to prevent non-numeric values.
Oh, God, I feel so good. Oh.
2 follow-ups. WJ Warner's, in fact, thank you very much for helping me, a pro developer. The problem still exists. The solution was still to restore from backup.
And that fixed it?
Let us know if that fixed it. If it didn't fix it, send us an email.
If it fixed it, that means his file was in a funky, unhappy, marginally, potentially slightly corrupted state or something. That's not good. All right, I'm listening. What else? Or the
And
cache
then,
was damaged. The cache could be damaged. Yeah, so what else, Margaret?
Media Sandbox. As you edit a script step, you may see the restore option. Restore indicates the criteria you specified when the script step was last edited will be used when the script step is executed.
It must be like an undo, like a revert record, but you're reverting the script while you're working on it.
Like if you changed out the variable and wanted to go back to the old variable, I guess. I didn't realize that was an option. But I don't do it.
It may not be an option because I always auto save on all my stuff. I never have it ask me. Christian is one of those people always has it ask him, are you sure you want to save and do you want to revert?
Yeah, I select Command S all the time for
Yeah, I don't
everything.
ever let it unwind backwards.
So test.
I mean, you can
so
Command Z a script. You can go edit a script to Command Z. It'll unwind. Actually, quite a ways. It'll unwind like 50 steps. It's pretty awesome. Layouts will do the same thing. All right. Well, we should look that up and see where that's at. Do a search and help for that. So the keyword's restore, Margaret. Is that the word? The keyword we're looking for? Okay.
So.
Well, he's asking a question about something I feel stupid. I feel like wow.
Oh, it's perform find restore.
Oh, perform find restore.
Okay. I think that's restoring the last found find request.
Oh yeah. I never use that. Would you like to know why I don't use that? That's a good, that's actually, we covered that in our 30-day class. That's a good one, right? Because here's the thing, so you write your file, I'm going to answer this, then we'll be done, right? All right, so let's talk about this real quick. So, and my brain just spaced. Okay, so we're going to write a new script step. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this a little bigger so everyone can see this over here. This is, okay, so if you have a script where you say perform find, right? So you say you have a perform find right here, okay? And then what you do is you tell it to find and specify find request, right? And then you put some stuff in here like title, insert operator equals, let's see, can we do it that way? Or would you do it by find records, omit records, by contacts, insert operator equals, quote, CEO or something like that? Can we do it that way? Can I add that? Would that allow me to do it? So here's the rub. Here's the rub. You write that code. You know in there it's going to perform a find for CEO. If you're a really badass developer, and that's a big if, because I had to yell at Margaret about this the other day, you have to comment your code. Performs a find for title equals CEO. That's assuming that you're a good developer that does that, okay? If you're a great developer, and all you're like, I'm the best developer ever. Okay. Trust me, when you're in a hurry, commenting goes out the window, right? Late for dinner, got a hot date, got to go to a funeral, something, wedding. Okay. So, or a couple of years go by, you come back as a whole point. 6 months. After 6 months, you cannot remember what you did. For me, 3 or 4 months, right? In terms of coding, it kind of does something, but you don't remember. Commenting helps. This right here is the only way to tell what's in here, unless you actually print this script step. If you print it to a printer, it will tell you what the criteria is in here. Alternatively, you can go like this. Enter find mode. Okay. Pause on, turn that off. Then you do set field. Okay. You set field. The target field is going to be title. The value is going to be CEO. And then you're going to say perform find. And so what happens is that by you explicitly doing this, you can't, without any, if say there's no commenting at all, right? This one down here, you can tell what the hell's happening. It's not hidden. This one would be great. It would be great if there was a caret, little arrow, side arrow, and you could turn it down and it would tell you what's inside, right? Turn it up, turn it down, have it done sideways, right? Yeah, doesn't do that. So without that, you look at the code, it's not self-evident what it does. The only way to know what it does is either to print out the PDF print out the script to a PDF on your desktop, or print it to a piece of paper, kill a tree, fine, whatever. Or you could just comment it, comment it right there, assuming that your comment's up to date and no one changed it behind your back. Or you could actually have it explicit like this. And you could also say new record request, right? And you could have it do something else. You could have it do a bunch of stuff. Find all the CEOs, right? But then maybe omit all the, or actually what you say, maybe omit all the ones that have the word Carlton in their last name. That's a really specific situation. But so now you've got find all the CEOs and then omit all the Carltons. So this is what our basic training, we do this. This is great stuff. This is a great question. This right here. All right. So the professional developers, I'm going to take 5 lines of code and put it into one line because I'm a badass developer. That's great. Unless you're the person coming behind the badass developer, trying to read their minds, what the fuck they were doing. Okay. And so that's why I do it explicitly, because the life that you're potentially going to save, the developer's life you're going to save that comes after the fact, 50-50 chance it could be you. And you're not going to remember what you did. And if your comment is out of date, say, well, I put this comment down here, right? But that comment doesn't match what's in there. Well, I wrote the initial comment, but I got busy and I went to a movie and saw the double Barbie Oppenheimer movie, whatever you do, the double movie thing, some sort of meme about that, right? Oppenheimer and nuclear weapons with Barbie, right? It's a double. People do it. I have no idea what they're doing. So anyway, so the problem is the road to hell is paved with, it's like that old game show. I can name that, you hear the song, like Star Wars music or Indiana Jones or some sort of Lady Gaga song. I can name that tune in 8 notes, 7 notes. They go back and forth bidding. I can name that song in 3 notes. Well, I can write a professional program with 1 line of code. It's right here. And maybe I've got to find a starting point that's 29. When I send a campaign out to people, it's got 29 requests. 29. Add this, omit this. That gives me my secret formula for sending out our newsletters. Okay. Do I want to write that in here, or I can just read the code? Oh, it's 1 line of code. You got 29 lines of code. It should be faster. It's marginally this is a little faster, but you just wrote yourself into a corner because you don't know what this does. So that would be the answer to that question. Yes, you can do it. Yes, you should do it if you want to cause your pain and agony down the road. All right, Margaret, are we done? 2:06, we're late. All right, everyone, tomorrow, Jonathan Ray, adding records blatantly with blatant disregard for the law. That's it.
Okay, everybody. Ba, 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 ba. And goodbye.
Got a report of an individual up here who may be a FileMaker license. Well, it's potentially expired. Look at the back of that car right there. Looks like the FileMaker license has expired. Sir, I need you to step out of the vehicle. Sir, step out of the vehicle. Sir.